Right, let's have a look then. Where are we? Hey, Sammy, how's it going? Is the is the audio working? I don't know. Like these are questions that need to be answered, I suppose. Um, Having said that, though, there seems to be an incredible delay on what I'm seeing on the video here and actually what I'm doing in real life. So, yeah, all well, sir. Hope everything is good now that TFN is done for the year. TFN is not done for the year. um, you know what? Like, I would love to say that we're all having a well-deserved rest, but the reality is that we are very much still working. We've got Reading in November, and then we've also got. I think I posted this on X the other day. Like I've already cracked open my spreadsheets for 2025, and already deep in it. Like the funny thing is that, and I appreciate that this is a weird, privileged position to be in, that because we work on TFN all year round, after TFN, I'm sure you've probably had it, and so many other people talk about it. The come down, the blues and stuff that you have, that you're not at TFN anymore. For us, we have the alternative view, which is right. Okay, we've nailed it. Now let's nail the next one. So, like, as soon as we come back from TFN, it's just back on with more work, and that is a blessing, I guess, and also a curse, because you would like to have 5 minutes, but you want to dissect everything. You want to figure out where you can improve. You figure out what you want to change, things like that, and more importantly, you want to play with lots and lots of blockies, because blockies are life. It's so funny. I've got these guys on my desk, and I've just done a video, like, going through some of the stuff that I've got, like the Studio Series 86 Bumblebee. Like, the joy that these bring compared to the joy... And this isn't a knock on this figure. There's nothing wrong with this Bumblebee. It's a solid figure. Great engineering, great posability, things like that. But it's just not a patch on the character and the charm of these guys. And like I've got all of my blockies now over displayed, and yeah, like they're so much fun. Like I got this guy as well at TFN. I got Magmatron, and like I started transforming him, and then I was like, I'm not really that bothered. so I put Magmatron down a little bit. Yeah, no, that's very true. One of the feminisms, it never ends. Speaking of feminisms, like this is another thing that I've started falling down the rabbit hole on. Like I say, I mentioned it in my video. Hey, Sunstreaker. Mentioned in my video that I've fallen down a little bit of a Marvel UK rabbit hole. So I'm currently in the process of trying to buy up as much Marvel UK as I possibly can. Um, which is interesting because I know that I'm probably never going to get like a complete run of these because some of these issues are very, very expensive. But I'm enjoying it. Like, I'm enjoying the. Oh, yeah, all right, Matt. I'm enjoying the fact that I don't need to desperately seek them out. I'm not trying to go on YouTube and buy lots or anything like that. I'm simply just, hey, you're selling some Marvel UK. Have you got any issues that I don't already own? In which case, boom, I'm going to pick them up. And I was really lucky because Kapow had a box. Adam May had a box of these at Kapow, and he did me a cracking deal. I think I got like 20 issues or something like that for £20. Now, some of these have got like stain damage, water damage, things like that. I haven't been through all of them yet, so I don't know like what the ultimate quality is. But 20 comics for £20, you can't argue with that. So I'm really indebted to them. The rest of them I've picked up from a local comic book trader in Newcastle. And people have said like, oh, well, what are you after? Are you after like particular stories? Are you after particular runs? Like, what are you after? No, like, if I'm looking at my stack here, it runs from issue 98, 90, and then it jumps to 89 rather, 90, and then it jumps to like 98, and then I go from a couple of hundreds, and then jump 10 and jump 20 and things like that. What I am actually doing is I'm buying covers that I really, really like, because some of these covers, man, are just beautiful. That's a great cover. These are great. I also had the fortunate benefit of having Andy Turnbull with me. Now, Andy is one of the TFN team. But he is big Marvel UK guy. So, he was able to, when we found a stack of them, he was able to point me in the direction. That's first appearance of Rodimus. That's this, that's that. Again, which isn't something that I'm particularly bothered about because I'm not in a position yet to start reading them, but I am enjoying flicking through them. Because part of the reason that I want to go after Marvel UK comics at the minute is because these will never be reprinted. The stories will be reprinted, as we know, because we're getting the... sorry, that's Evie in the background there. We are getting reprints because we're getting the omnibuses that are going to be coming out very shortly, I think towards the end of the year, which has got like, like half of all of the original Marvel run. But what I mean by these are never going to be reprinted is it's all of the other stuff that's in here. It's the backup stories. It's the it's the Grimgrams and things like that. It's stuff that I've never had. I found out actually as well, which is a complete coincidence, is that some of these comics which I bought from TFN, their previous owner was James Roberts. James had swapped or sold or whatever it was some of his other issues for better copies, and that's it. Like, I've ended up with some of James Roberts's older issues, so that's quite cool. Oh, we've got quite a few people. Hi, Dave. Just jumping on to say hi and say well done on another successful weekend. Thanks, Matt. Cheers. I really do appreciate it. I hope you're doing well as well. Hope Soph's doing good as well. Star Saber, evening, David. Nice to see you. Can't believe a week has come and went. I know. That's the stunning thing, isn't it? Like, this time last week we were in it. Like, we were absolutely in it, and now I'm sat here talking about Marvel Comics, which, to be honest, probably isn't that much of a change. And playing with blockies. The Marvel era, always endless array of gorgeous covers for so many single issue comics. Yeah, yeah. I especially like. I mean, anytime Scorponok ends up on a cover, is wonderful. You know, where are we? Issue 157. You know, like Scorponok is just, he's so photogenic every single time. Every single time. So like I'm liking that. That's kind of like my new thing, my new collecting thing, separate from, you know, what figures I'm going to buy or blockies, which, like I say, are the real obsession of the show. Like, I am loving the fact that these little guys are getting the love that they are. You know, super fun. If you didn't pick any of these up, do yourself a favor. That wall behind you is very impressive, David. Oh, thank you. Yes, that's my that's my convergence wall. A little story about this. Like, when we moved into this house, 2017, end of 2017, I knew this was going to be like my office, and I had like a whole bunch of comics. Now here's the thing. You all know, I'm sure you do, because I've talked about it plenty of times before. Like, I am a big DC Comics fan. You know, actually not so much right now. Like, I'm finding their output a little disconcerting, especially their recent announcement. But that's neither here nor there. But they had ran an event either a year before or a couple of years before called Convergence. Now, if you know what Convergence is, you know Convergence was dreadful. It was a really bad event. It was, the best way to describe it was, not Lord of the Flies. What's the Japanese movie where they all end up on the island and they all have to kill each other? They've done like American adaptations of it. Well, I think Stone Cold Steve Austin, of all people. But never mind. It was basically, that was the concept, but it was through the multiverse, and it was all these different realities of DC Comics and stuff. Battle Royale, thank you. I knew somebody would correct me there. It was dreadful. It was terrible. But here was the thing about it, was because it was using all of DC's history, it meant that the comics, the single issues, had a load of like references and callbacks to really famous and really historical and really good instances and moments within DC Comics. And rather than bagging and boarding all of the Convergence books, I decided I was just going to destroy them and create that. And that is it. That is my Convergence wall / other issues that I just randomly tore apart. And that's it. It's cool. It's a nice little thing. Though I do keep thinking to myself, like, I should put some Transformers up there. But yeah, I've said to my wife Grace as well that, like, if we ever move out, I'm actually just going to. I'm never going to like cover that wall. I'm going to like board it up, like just put wood over the top of it, so that if anybody else ends up owning this house, when they take the wall off or something like that, it's just going to be loads of comic books. And I think that would be cool. Like, have you seen those like silly videos and stuff where people build their kitchens and they stick like a skeleton behind like the like a plastic skeleton? They stick like plastic skeletons and stuff behind the benches and stuff, with the idea being that if they ever move out and somebody rips the kitchen out, they find a skeleton and freak out, which is kind of funny, but also kind of terrifying as well. Transformers Marvel Comics introduced me to a wider Marvel world via the Iron Man spread in the back of the Transformers comics. He soon became my favorite Marvel character. Yeah, so like, here's the thing. It's like, I think I've talked about this before. I keep picking the same issue up just because it's on the top of the pile. Let's pick a different cover. Home Sweet Home, Megatron. These ones, they haven't been bagged properly and boarded, and it's annoying me. I've got bags and boards on the way to me, but like, so a lot of people will probably already know this. I've said this before. It's like, I was not a Marvel comics kid. I did not read the comics. In fact, I don't even remember like having a memory of seeing the Transformers comic book on the shelves. It just wasn't something that ever existed to me. I knew about them, but much later on. And really, it was when I went to see. So I'll tell you this little story. I didn't include this in my video, but I'll include it here. I mentioned on Friday, if you were there at the show on Friday, I mentioned this there. So a friend of mine from school, Andy King, and we were good mates during school. And then, you know, college, university, you go different places and stuff like that. He went off to Japan as an English teacher, met his wife, you know, has got 2 beautiful kids. But our connection at school was 2 things. It was professional wrestling, because that was the glue that bound everybody together in the late 90s. But also, Andy was a massive Transformers fan. And after I had gotten out of Transformers, because I thought I had to, and because I thought I had to give all my toys away, Andy was the first person whose house I went to where he still had all of his Transformers and all of that stuff. And he was a big fan of Marvel UK. So come full circle, Andy messages me out of the blue. You know, we got each other on Facebook. He messages me on it and says, hey, you still do that convention in Birmingham, don't you? The Transformers convention. I'm like, yeah. He's like, look, we're like going on a holiday, but we're going to be in Birmingham on the Friday. Like, can we come along? And I was like, yeah, it would be wonderful. Like, it'd be great to see you. It'd be great to finally meet your family. That would be absolutely fantastic. So he came along on Friday, and man, like, it was so good catching up with him. But, and here was the thing that really, really put a smile on my face, right? You know, we had Greg Berger there. We had Kat Kavari. We had David Kay. You know, they were all there. Do you know who the kids wanted to meet? Like, they wanted to meet Simon Furman. And they had in their bags the Titan trades for, was it Prey, I think? And another story, I can't remember which one. And it was his 2 kids had these, and all they wanted to do was like meet Simon Furman. And I like I'm grinning from ear to ear thinking about it, because I messaged Simon and I was like, Simon, are you at the hotel? And they were like, because they had to leave, you know, because they were off on holiday. I'm like, Simon, are you in the hotel? He's like, yeah, I'm up in my room. I'm like, look, I'm really sorry to impose and stuff. Is there any chance you could pop downstairs? There's a couple of people I want you to meet. And Simon came down, and like, their faces were just made up, and Simon was just so generous to them. You know, went back to his room and got them some really nice prints. Like, I'll never forget that moment. Like, it was a true heartfelt moment amongst, you know, somebody who did a lot for me, because he made me remember that, you know, Andy, their dad, made me remember that you know, it's okay to still like toys and stuff like that. And it's still cool to like read comics, because Andy was a big Batman fan, and again, like, I credit his passion and love for that to, you know, rekindling my own, and to then see his kids, for me to be able to introduce his kids to, you know, the legend that is Simon Furman, for Simon to be just wonderful, as he always is, was like a true moment of the convention for me. It really was. And their passion sort of inspired me on this. And I sort of said to, I think I said Andy Turnbull on Friday night, it's like, if there are Marvel UK comics at the convention, I want them. And unfortunately, and I'm kicking myself here, I didn't have enough time to like really scour the dealer room. That's a little anecdote anyway, but a nice one nevertheless. What have we got? Thank you so much for TFN. Hope you're doing well, and greetings from the Czech Republic. Thanks very much, Freddie. Yeah, doing great. Thanks. Just you know, like I said at the beginning of the stream, just right back on the horse, and trying to get everything ready for Reading and next year. Now that the cat's out of the bag, and there's going to be a TFN 2025. I was the same, David. Watched the cartoons, but the comics never really appealed to me. Then the movies came out. yeah, like I say, for me, it wasn't that the comics didn't appeal. So I was like a uh, I feel bad because like I'm prefacing everything with I've told this story before, but I have told this story before. Uh, I struggled like growing up to read, like I really really did. I loved stories. I loved stories, but reading was hard for me. Like a couple of things that, and I should point out, like I haven't been diagnosed with any conditions. I'm not dyslexic. I don't have anything like that. Now I'm a ferocious reader. It's just that growing up, for whatever reason, I did not like reading, and I didn't think I was good at it, and it sort of put me back. Like I used to do things at school, like where so every Friday you would have to pick a book from the library, and the expectation is you would pick the book up, you would take it to the teacher, you would tell them what book it was, and you would take that book home to read over the weekend. Like I couldn't even like read the titles of the books, so I would get my friend Jonathan to tell me what the book was. But around the same time, we went to Waterstones to buy new books for our library, and we all got to pick like one book, and everybody went to the kids section and picked this book and that book and all of that stuff, and I went to the adult section, and I picked up the complete works of Sherlock Holmes, because I've always been a Holmesian, and my teacher was like, "You can't read this," and I was like, "No, I can," and she opened the page and she's like, "Right, well, what does that say?" And I'm like, "It says A Study in Scarlet." And the only reason that I got that was because I knew that A Study in Scarlet was the first Sherlock Holmes story, and it just so happened that she turned to the first page of the book, which was A Study in Scarlet. So, like, I blagged my way through it. So, like, comics and all of that stuff, I just didn't read, and it wasn't until like I was past junior school. In fact, where did I get to? Like I would have been like 11 or 12 before I started reading. Like I got to like secondary school. Here's one other story I'll tell you about my reading, which is kind of a weird one. So one year we were on holiday. This is 93, 94, whatever it is. And I find in Waterstones the trade paperback for The Death of Superman, right, which is the Titan reprint. So we're probably talking about 94, right? And it's a comic book, it's The Death of Superman trade paperback. I still was so off-put by reading that I flicked through the entire book, okay? And then instead of reading it, I went through the comic panel by panel, page by page, and I, in my head, told my own story. I just ignored all of the words and just told my own story. Like, that's kind of where I was. Now, this is The Death of Superman trade paperback, so, there's not a great deal of story to tell. Especially when you get to sort of the last few issues where, it goes from 5 panels a page to 4 panels a page to 3 panels a page to 2 panels a page. Finally, Superman 700, which is the death issue. Action, I can't remember which one it is, but it's like literally 22 splash pages, which is a really clever concept if you're a fan of comics and stuff. So again, like, I just didn't get comics. And then Dreamwave came out, and by that point I was a ferocious reader, and that's when the love of comics was born. Sorry, I do apologise. Like, I'm only here for like another like 20 minutes, and then I need to dash. But I'm just like telling you all of these really weird stories, and I don't know why. Watch cartoons. Ah, that's a lovely story, Dave. Yeah, thank you. The Simon Furman one, not me, not reading. Hey, everybody. Good to see you existing again, Dave. Thanks. Don't feel bad, Dave. Don't feel bad. I don't at all. Like, you know, life is grand. I don't. I just think what that whole experience taught me was the fact that, you know, the reality is people mature at different rates. And, you know, if anything else, the education system that we have, which is the best one that we have, can only function and serve everybody as long as there are additional additional things put in place to support people who learn at a different rate. Like that's the way I look at it. You know, which for me back in the late 80s and 90s was never the case. Like I am assured by my teacher friends that that is not the case now, which is good. You know, very, very good. Oh, Raymond just saying that his body is cracking. Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. All I've wanted to do is sleep. Like I've got the weekend off now. I went back to work for a couple of days, and yeah, sleeping is absolutely on the cards here. Pat Lee was my introduction to comics. Yeah, absolutely. I've again, I've told this story before. Like, I'd read comics before. You know, I'd read The Death of Superman, made it up in my head. By that point, though, okay. So here's like my origin with comic books, right? My cousin is about 5 years older than me, so naturally he was like my cool cousin, right? Because he was 5 years older than me. And he went to America when I was mid-90s. Like, yeah, mid-90s. So I'm like 12 or 13 at this point. And he comes back. And a couple of the issues that he has brought back with him is, one, the introduction of Carnage, which was the trade paperback of Carnage, which actually I just reread recently. And he brought back the first issue of Maximum Clonage, the holofoil cover, where all the Spider-Men are attacking Spider-Man. And the issue of Who Finally Stopped the Juggernaut from X-Men, which is basically the start of the Onslaught saga, when Bishop and Beast have gone to see Pulp Fiction, and they're on their way out, and Juggernaut comes slamming down, and it's like, who finally stopped the Juggernaut? And he's explaining this to me. He's like, Spider-Man had this alien costume suit, and the Juggernaut, who you know from the cartoon, who was unstoppable, has finally been stopped. And also, the Spider-Man that you have been reading for the last 15 years is not the real Spider-Man, and he is a clone. And my mind was absolutely blown. Like, say what you will about the quality of those stories, whether or not you think they're good, whether they're bad, whether they went on too long, whether they were, you know, completely corrupted by marketing and terrible business practices. For a 13 or 14-year-old to be told that these kinds of stories can be told in comic books blew my mind. So I always loved comics, but I never read comics actively. Until the early 2000s, I walk into a comic book shop, and on the shelf is issues 1, 2, and 3 of Dreamwave's Transformers reboot. So now you're talking combining Transformers, which I love, and a brand new comic book series with, let's be honest, a absolutely incredible modern art style. For the time, I will completely accept the criticisms made about Dreamwave's art, but for the time. And so that was it. It was like buying the Dreamwave comics meant having to go to the comic book shop, and it was, you know, much like with what I've said about Marvel UK, buying comic books based on covers, based on how I think the covers look. Oh, this cover's been drawn by Eduardo Russo. This is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to buy this. This comic book cover has been drawn by Joe Quesada or somebody. People who I didn't know, but who just have an incredible art style. and I just bought them. And that's how I got into comic books. And now I have thousands of comics because I love the art form. I really, really do. It is, to my mind, the best art form in the world. It can produce the best. You can turn around and say, oh, well, you know, movies are visually more entertaining and things like that. Yes, but movies take years, and the risk involved in them is calculated, which is why you don't see the diversity in movie lineups, though I think we're starting to get back to a little bit of that now. Comics can take one person to draw, ink, letter a book by themselves. And they can tell a story that has all of the fantasy and things like that, and all of the imagination of the best movies. And the good thing about comics, and the detriment of comics, is that they never end, which can be a problem, especially now that, you know, the big DC, the big two, Marvel and DC, are effectively just IP farms. You know. So, but yeah, Pat Lee. There we go. It's why I love Dreamwave. That's why, you know, showed this off in the video. I got a T-shirt at TFN. I'd rather be reading Dreamwave. This is not me being sarcastic about Dreamwave. I would much rather be reading Dreamwave. Your mileage may vary. Sorry to cut this short. Have things to sort out. No problem. Take care, Star Saber. Enjoy. Most fulfilling moment of TFN 2024. Well, I've talked about the moment with my friend on Friday. I was so thrilled with how the script reading went. So thrilled. To have written it with Gav Spence. And when I say wrote it, like, Gav wrote most of it. I helped. From that to go from idea, Grace's idea, which was just kind of like, what if there's a crossover? And I'm like, well, seems like a... And then the more you think about it, you're like, oh yeah. But David Kay, Kat Kavari, Greg Berger, and Chris Finney as the narrator, they just knocked it out of the park. More than meets the eye, much more than meets the eye, on the Saturday night. We were... there's a picture, Shadow... I don't know if she's posted this or not. She shared it in the group. But it's like a time-lapse video. Or photos, set of photos of a lot of the organisers. And we were sat next to the AV desk as we started it. And you know, bearing in mind that, like, I'd watched that several times in the lead up to it, I was like, all right, we'll play it and then we'll go get food. And we played it and we all just sort of sat down, and over the course of the 64 minutes that it runs, Shadow has just taken a whole bunch of pictures of us, and every single time she takes a picture, we're just getting more and more comfortable, and like more and more comfortable, and more comfortable, until eventually we're just like lying on the floor just watching cartoons together. That was cool. Like, and to see people's reaction, who had bought a ticket to ClubCon, not quite understanding what it was, and me having to explain that, like, you know, this isn't... We haven't just gone and tidied things up a little bit. Like, we've got the studio recordings. We have the recordings. We have all of the deleted scenes, which have been online for years. The Mapes posted them online years ago. But the fact that we've gone in and done the best job that we can, and then to just sit around and watch it with your mates, because that took so many man-hours to put together. And Chris Carter, Andy Turnbull, and Chris McFeely deserve so much credit for that. It's why I prefer the Watchmen comics to the various adaptations. It just hits different. Yeah, Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about the comics in its purest form. Um, like Watchmen's always been a funny one for me because obviously of where I ended the comic book industry. Like Watchmen was 25, well, 15 years, almost 20 years prior. So the comic book industry that I ended up joining was the post Watchmen era. Like there's a few things in life that I wish I had been around for. One would have been to see Queen at Wembley. Just if there's anybody who ever says if you could ever go to any gig ever, it'd be like Queen at Wembley. And I would love to have been there when Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns hit, to experience them for the first time with other people who understood what a seismic shift in comics was. Like, if you were at TFN and you weren't there on the Friday night, Simon Furman and James Roberts basically talked about comic books for 45 minutes, and it's just one of the most fascinating conversations because you're talking to somebody who was there in it, you know, talking about these UK comic books that most people will never have heard of. Everybody's heard of Marvel UK, but all of these smaller indie UK comic books, and then James Roberts, who, you know, is a historian of this stuff. Just them two talking not about Transformers, but ultimately the lead up to Transformers. It was just so fascinating. And then Cult of Personality hit, and Nick Rowe showed up, and you know, all of that stuff. But yeah, like I would love that. That would have been a dream. But don't have a time machine, unfortunately. So you've just got to hope that you're available for the next seismic shift, you know, that next thing that you want to see. Like toys, for example. From this video sponsor, Blockies, because I love them and I want them to have more Blockies. These are great. I just love them. They're just so much fun. Hi, Paul. You all right? Good to see you again at TFN, by the way. Hope you're doing all right. The Much More Than Meets the Eye was so much fun to watch. Yeah, I hope people enjoy it, you know, because it was, I think I said it at the weekend, we were in production of making that when Hasbro announced that they were doing the cinema experience, and I was so terrified. I was so terrified that all of the work that we had done was, because I think they marketed it with, like, you know, special guests or whatever it was, and I was like, oh, what if they've got them to like re-record the deleted scenes and things like that, and they didn't. They went a different route with it, but it was totally different to ours, and I was so grateful. Like, I was like, oh, whew, rest easy, because that was kind of the thing. But at the same time, you know, like, I knew, like, oh, we're going to announce this, and then Hasbro's going to do their thing. Is people going to see Hasbro's thing going to detract from them wanting to see our thing? And I'm so glad people, you know, enjoyed both. I'm looking forward to when and if someone takes the 86 and redoes it with all the storyboards and deleted footage as an extended edition for the 40th anniversary of that happens. So, you know what, right? I was talking to this guy at the convention, right? Irish fella, tall, does a basics show, right? And we were talking about, like, deleted scenes for Transformers the movie, right? Like, so far, take the storyboards out of the equation and stuff, right? So far, we've had, like, one deleted scene. And it's not a deleted scene, it's an extended scene, yeah? Which was released on one of the Metrodome releases, like, 10 years ago or something like that. And that's the only bit of, like, cut footage that has ever been found that we know of, right? And so we're talking about like the 40th anniversary, and we're talking about like Transformers the movie, and talking about the fact that people on YouTube have been rebuilding some of the deleted scenes. Now, I think when a lot of people talk about like the deleted scenes, they talk a lot about the Devastator scene inside of Autobot City. Ultra Magnus shows up, they take down Devastator, then the Constructicons show up, and then it pans into Megatron. And we're saying like, oh, wouldn't it be like really, really cool? Or isn't it really, really cool that people are doing that and going back to it and things like that? An extended cut is pretty awesome. And Chris made the salient point, and I do agree with him on this, which is that as much as everybody looks at that scene and thinks, oh, wouldn't it be cool if that was in? The truth is, it wouldn't, because the Optimus Prime Charge of the Light Brigade like moment is one of the most famous moments in that movie, perhaps the most famous moment in that movie. And if you put that scene back in, that completely kills the momentum of Optimus Prime. Because think about it, he transforms, he drives in, he takes them all out, he then effectively gets jumped. And, the music and all of that stuff, it just completely kills it. Whereas now, Prime just looks incredible. Now, that's not to say that you can't re-engineer that and edit it around or whatever it is. But I agree, it's like, actually, I understand why that scene was cut. That scene was cut because Prime needs to have this moment. And it's an iconic moment. Now, I think there's a lot of other things you could do. There's other stuff that you could do, but then you start getting into the realms of, like, it's just fan fiction at that point. Like, in my head, I think, like, every single person, everybody has got scenes that they wish they could see, Like, I'll give you a very quick one. When IDW did their anniversary retelling of the Transformers comic, Don Figueroa drew a splash page of the battle that's taking place at the Ark, and that explains why all of the other combiners are not at Autobot City, because Bruticus has descended, and like the stopping the other combiners from the Stunticons and the Combaticons are at the Ark, and that's why the the Protectobots and the Aerial Bots aren't at Autobot City. And so in my head, I'm like, that scene in the movie where Ultra Magnus says, Blur, you can help me alert the others. Like, in my head, canonically now, what Blur does when he transforms, because we know Ultra Magnus ends up going into the base itself, but we don't know what happens to Blur. My take is that Blur, like, bolts across America, like, and heads to Oregon, and heads to Mount St. Hilary, and like finds that battle going on. Like, he's going for help, but then realizes that help has been cut off, so comes back, and that's why, like, and by the time he gets back, it's nighttime, and that's when he's in the tower, like, shooting away at people. It's like, it just explains where, but it's complete fan fiction. Like I have fan fiction for days for Transformers the movie. Like, how is Hound both at the barrier and at the ship? I have a story for that. But again, it's just fan fiction at the end of the day, But like everything, because even if it's officially published by Hasbro, it's not really part of Transformers the movie, if you know what I mean. Right, I do apologize. I actually need to go and pick up my wife. Let's just very quickly rattle through these. Oh, wow, we've got lots of comments. No, sir, I did not see you playing with your toys again. Yeah. The best thing about Transformers fans is that they'll never get sick of Transformers. Amen to that, brother. The funny thing is that an extended edition has been compiled together by a YouTuber. Oh, okay, cool. Like, entirely possible. Like, but it's just that scene. That scene is, like, perfect without that deleted scene. You could put it somewhere else, but versions of the film, the storyboards. I think I've seen this guy. Yeah, this is the guy who is animating it, and like he's doing a cracking job with it. You could easily touch that up and give it a better look. Wheeljack dying off screen sort of annoys me. He was the first episode with Bumblebee. Yeah, no, totally agree. I mean, again, I've got a story for that as well. Like, you know, I know what happened to Reflector. I know all of that stuff. It's, you know, the Reflector one actually did get made. That got turned into a mosaic for early IDW when they were doing all the mosaics. Reflector basically just breaks into Autobot City, turns the corner, and he just bumps into Warpath's gun barrel, and he just looks at it, and it just cuts on Warpath's face, and wham! And that's the end of Reflector. You know, it just gets a hole blown through him. But anyway, listen, thank you, everybody, for jumping on. It's been really nice catching up. I should do more of these. I really, really should. But I'm so glad you all enjoyed TFN 2024. If you got along, and thank you for all of the support. It means so much to us. It really, really does. Anyway, take care of yourselves. I will catch you all. I'm not going to say I will catch you all very, very soon, because we know that tends to be a lie from me. But yeah, I hope you're all okay, and hopefully see some of you at Reading at the end of the year in November. So, right, take care, everyone. Bye.